Human space was quiet on the maps of the Cathari Union. It looked small, weak, and easy to take. The Union had watched from far away and saw slow ships, simple weapons, and soft signals. They believed humans survived only because no one cared enough to conquer them. When the Union needed a symbol of victory to end a long internal conflict, they chose humans. They would strike fast, take something valuable, and show the galaxy their strength. The fleet arrived near a human colony world at the edge of known space. It was not a military world. It was a place of families, farms, and research stations. The Cathari commanders agreed this would make the lesson clear. They did not plan a long war. They planned a short show of power. Orbital weapons disabled satellites, and landing craft cut through the sky. Human defenses reacted, but too late and too scattered. The Union soldiers moved through streets and halls with calm steps. In one habitat dome, alarms echoed while people ran. A small human child was separated from his family in the confusion. He hid under a table as boots passed by. A Cathari officer noticed him and stopped. The child did not cry. He looked up with wide eyes and held a small toy in his hand. The officer felt a strange pause, then made a choice. The child would be taken alive. A living prize would speak louder than ruins. The Union withdrew quickly. They left warnings and images behind, showing the child in gentle restraints, unharmed. The message was simple. Humans were weak. Resistance was pointless. The galaxy watched and waited for the human response. Many expected anger speeches, maybe a failed rescue. The Union expected fear. On the human worlds, the response was quiet. Governments spoke little. Fleets did not rush forward. Messages were sent, but they asked only one thing: proof of the child's safety. Time passed. The Union leaders laughed and relaxed their guard. They believed they had broken the human spirit. The child was held on a Union command ship. The room was clean and warm. Food was adjusted to his needs. Medical scans showed he was healthy. Guards were posted, but they were told there was no danger. The child spent hours drawing on a tablet and asking simple questions. He asked where his family was. He asked when he could go home. The guards did not know how to answer. Something else shared the ship. Deep within the vessel, behind sealed doors, was a creature the Union called a relic beast. It had been found long ago on a dead world. Massive, scaled, and silent, it was kept as a symbol of ancient power. The Union believed it was barely aware, more animal than mind. It was fed and watched, but never trusted. The child felt it before he saw it. On his third day, a door was left open by mistake. He followed a soft sound like slow breathing. He walked into a wide chamber and stopped. The creature lay there, larger than any machine, its eyes half closed. Guards shouted and rushed forward, but the creature moved first. It lifted its head and looked at the child. The ship shook. Power systems flickered. The guards froze in fear. The creature did not attack. It lowered its head to the floor and waited. The child stepped closer, heart pounding, but calm in a way he did not understand. He reached out and touched the rough scales. The creature made a deep sound, not a roar, but something like relief. From that moment, the ship began to change. Systems failed in small ways. Sensors gave false readings. Doors opened and closed at the wrong times. The Union engineers blamed stress and human sabotage. They did not see the pattern. The creature was waking, and it was learning the ship. Far away, human fleets still waited. Messages continued, calm and polite. The Union leaders grew uneasy. Their scans showed rising energy inside their own vessel, but no clear cause. They ordered the child moved to a more secure area. When guards tried to take him, the lights went out. In the darkness, something vast moved through the ship with purpose. Walls bent, floors cracked. The creature followed the child's fear like a signal. The Union had wanted a trophy. They had taken a human child. They did not yet understand that what protected him was older than their Union, and it had finally been given a reason to wake. The alarms returned in broken echoes as the ship drifted off course. Cathari officers shouted orders that no longer reached their crews. Elevators stopped between levels. Weapons refused commands. In the command deck, displays filled with warnings that made no sense. The relic beast moved where it wished, guided by the child's quiet presence. He was taken to a corner, wrapped in a blanket, shaking but alive. The creature stayed near, blocking corridors without touching him. Each step it took rewrote the ship's balance and gravity. The Union believed control came from rank and machines. They were wrong. Control came from bonds they did not measure. As minutes passed, the ship's signal vanished from Union space. Watching fleets lost contact and assumed failure of equipment. No one imagined the truth forming inside the hull. The child closed his eyes and slept, trusting without knowing why. The creature settled beside him, breathing slow and steady. Somewhere deep within its mind, memories stirred of ancient promises and old wars. The Union had crossed a line written long before their history began. The war they wanted to avoid had already started, not with fire or fleets, but with a promise kept. Beyond the hull, silent human fleets adjusted course, waiting for the moment when patience would end and answers would be demanded. Because some losses require more than rescue, and some protections awaken only when innocence is threatened across the stars by forgotten ancient laws. The Union command ship drifted through space without a clear path. Its engines still worked, but not as they should. Power flowed where it wanted, not where the controls sent it. Inside, fear spread faster than fire. Officers argued. Engineers ran from system to system, finding nothing they could truly fix. Every report ended the same way. The ship was alive in a way machines should not be. The relic beast stayed close to the child. It moved slowly now, no longer tearing through walls, but placing its massive body between the child and danger. Guards who tried to approach felt pressure in their minds, a warning without words. Some dropped their weapons and fled. Others froze, unable to move. The creature did not chase them. It had one purpose, and it never left that purpose. The child woke after many hours. He sat up and looked around, confused but calm. The chamber was dark, lit only by low emergency lights. The creature watched him, one large eye open, unblinking. The child felt afraid for a moment, then remembered the touch, the warmth, the feeling of safety. He stood and placed his hand on the creature's head again. Its tail moved slightly, careful not to harm him. On the bridge, a Cathari commander demanded answers. Scans showed the beast was no longer confined. It had access to the ship's core systems through old interfaces no one remembered building. Ancient technology mixed with modern systems, forming something new. The Union had always believed the relic was only a symbol. They now saw it was a guardian machine of flesh and thought, designed long before their rise. A message arrived from the Union Council. It was short and cold. Secure the child, destroy the creature if needed. The commanders hesitated. Weapons tests had already failed. Energy beams bent away. Missiles refused to arm. The ship itself resisted harm to the creature. It was as if the vessel had chosen a side. In human space, the silence ended. A single human ship crossed the border into Union territory. It was small, unarmed by most standards, and it sent a simple message on open channels. The child must be returned. There were no threats. No demands beyond that one sentence. The Union Council laughed at first. One ship meant nothing. Then sensors began to fail across Union space. Not attacks, not explosions, just systems going blind at key moments. Trade routes paused. Defense grids rebooted without reason. The Union felt watched. The small human ship did not move closer. It waited. Back on the drifting command ship, a young Cathari guard was assigned to watch the child from a distance. She had never seen a human before. She expected screams, anger, hatred. Instead, the child offered her a drawing on his tablet. It showed a large shape and a small shape side by side. She did not understand the image, but her chest felt tight. She began to question the orders she had been given. The creature sensed her thoughts. It did not attack. It allowed her to stay. This confused the Union commanders even more. The beast was not mindless. It judged. It chose. Engineers finally uncovered fragments of old records hidden deep in the ship's data. The relic beast was part of an ancient defense system created by a long-dead species. These beings believed the future depended on protecting young minds, not empires. The Guardians were designed to bond with those who showed trust without command. Humans, the records suggested, were highly compatible. Panic spread. If the beast bonded fully, the ship would never be controlled again. Worse, the bond might grow stronger over distance. The commanders ordered evacuation pods prepared. They would abandon the ship if needed. The child overheard raised voices and felt fear rise again. The creature reacted instantly. Bulkheads sealed, escape routes closed. It would not let the child be taken alone or left behind. The human ship sent another message. It named the child. It described his family. It thanked the Union for keeping him alive. The tone was calm, almost kind. The Union Council did not respond. They began moving fleets. The small human ship powered down its engines and drifted, matching the lost command ship's path from far away. It was not chasing. It was aligning. On the Union command ship, gravity shifted suddenly. Everyone fell. The creature moved, lifting the child onto its back, holding him steady. The ship rotated slowly, pointing toward a new vector. The creature had chosen a direction, toward human space. Union commanders screamed orders, but no system listened. The relic beast had full control now. The ship jumped into faster-than-light travel without warning. Many systems burned out. When the jump ended, the ship emerged near the human vessel. Human fleets uncloaked all at once. They had been there the whole time, hidden, waiting, not in attack formation, in containment formation. The message was clear. This could end peacefully, or it could end forever. The child looked out through a viewport and saw the ships. He smiled and waved, not understanding the scale of what he had caused. The creature lowered its head beside him, watching the fleets with ancient recognition. It remembered humans from long ago, from promises made when stars were young. The Union Council finally spoke. Their message was shaken, uncertain. They asked what humans wanted. The reply came from many voices, but spoke as one. Return the child, leave human space, never take what you do not understand again. On the command ship, the guard who had watched the child helped guide him toward a transport bay. The creature followed until the human rescue team arrived. It stopped at the threshold. The child hugged its scaled head. The creature did not move as the humans took the child into their arms. The Union ship powered down, empty and silent. The relic beast settled into stillness once more, its task complete. Human fleets escorted the child home. The Union withdrew, shaken and changed. The galaxy would later argue about what happened, about power, about fear, about ancient weapons. But one truth spread quietly from world to world. Humans did not rule through force alone. And if you touched one of their children, something older than war itself would answer. The human fleets escorted the rescue transport back toward human space, but the war was not over. It had only changed shape. The Union command ship was left behind, drifting without purpose, its systems locked by forces no one could override. The relic beast remained inside, silent once more, but not asleep. It was listening. The child was reunited with his family on a quiet medical station. There were no cameras, no speeches. He was wrapped in familiar arms and cried for the first time since his capture. Doctors confirmed he was unharmed. Yet human scientists noticed something unusual. His neural scans showed patterns they had never seen before, calm and stable, as if his mind had touched something vast and ancient and returned without damage. Human leaders met in private. They did not celebrate, they studied. Records long buried were reopened. Stories once thought to be myths were reviewed with new eyes. There were hints scattered across centuries of guardians that answered not to orders but to care. Humans had encountered fragments of this system before but never fully awakened it. Until now. Across Union space, chaos spread. Systems continued to fail in small but critical ways. Ships lost navigation for seconds at a time. Defense platforms shut down without warning, then restarted. No attacks occurred, but the message was clear. The relic beast had not gone dormant. It had extended itself, using old pathways the Union had unknowingly built into their technology. The Union Council demanded answers from their scientists. The truth was worse than fear. The Guardians were designed to prevent the rise of civilizations that ruled through domination alone. They were not weapons of conquest. They were corrections. And humans, with their strange mix of aggression and deep protection for their young, matched the criteria better than any species the Guardians had ever measured. The Cathari guard who had watched the child was taken into custody. Instead of punishment, she was questioned. She spoke of the creature's restraint, its judgment, and the way it responded to fear and kindness. Her testimony spread quietly through the Union ranks. Doubt began to replace pride. The human fleets did not advance. They held position near the border, visible but silent. Trade routes reopened slowly. Human diplomats sent messages that spoke of boundaries, not revenge. This confused the Union even more. They had expected punishment. They received restraint. On a remote human research world, a team studied ancient signals that had activated during the child's rescue. They traced echoes beyond known space. The Guardian network was larger than one beast, larger than one ship. Nodes stirred, testing, observing. The humans realized the truth with unease. The galaxy was being measured again, and humanity had been noticed. The child returned to a normal life, or as normal as it could be. He went to school. He played. But sometimes he would stop and look at the sky, quiet and thoughtful. When asked what he was thinking, he said he was listening. No one knew what that meant. Union fleets gathered near their core worlds. Some commanders argued for a preemptive strike. Others warned it would be the end of them. Every simulation showed the same result. If humans were attacked, the Guardian systems would escalate, not fast, not loudly, but completely. A human delegation finally entered Union space, escorted by a small fleet. They did not demand surrender. They offered terms. The Union would release all captured humans across their territories. They would end expansion into protected regions. In return, humans would share limited technology to stabilize Union systems and help them adapt to the changes already happening. The Union Council argued for days. In the end, they agreed, pride bent under survival. As the agreement was signed, the relic beast aboard the abandoned command ship powered down deeper systems. Union sensors stabilized. The Guardian network eased its pressure. The correction paused, but far beyond both civilizations, something else noticed. A signal, ancient and patient, acknowledged the activation. Humanity had not only awakened a Guardian. They had proven themselves worthy of its trust. On the human research world, a final report was filed and sealed. It stated a simple conclusion. Humans were no longer alone in their defense. They never truly had been. The child dreamed that night of stars and deep voices, of promises kept and paths watched. When he woke, he felt safe. Somewhere in the dark between galaxies, something watched over him still. And the galaxy began to change, quietly, carefully, because a human child had been taken, and the universe had remembered why that must never happen again. Years passed, and the memory of the incident slowly shifted from breaking news to quiet legend. Official records spoke of a border conflict resolved through diplomacy. The deeper truth stayed hidden behind sealed files and careful silence. But the Guardian network did not forget, and neither did humanity. The child grew older. He became a quiet boy with a habit of noticing small things others ignored. Machines worked better around him. Animals trusted him without fear. Teachers said he was calm beyond his years. Human scientists watched from a distance, careful not to interfere. They believed the bond formed in fear and trust had left a mark that could not be erased. Within Union space, change continued. Expansion fleets were recalled. Military doctrines were rewritten. The idea of strength began to shift from domination to stability. Some resisted this change, calling it weakness. Others remembered the drifting command ship and chose caution. On a distant Union world, a faction of hardliners began to prepare in secret. They believed the Guardians could be controlled, turned into weapons. They recovered old data fragments and built a device meant to force a response from the network. They told themselves it was for survival. In truth, it was for pride. The device was activated. Across human and Union space, sensors registered a low signal, ancient and wrong. Human fleets went on alert, not rushing forward, but spreading out, forming layers of defense. Diplomats sent warnings that went unanswered. The Guardian network stirred, but this time it did not move to protect. It moved to observe. The boy, now older, felt the disturbance like a cold wind in his thoughts. He stopped what he was doing and looked up at the sky. That night he dreamed of the relic beast again, no longer calm but watchful. It did not speak. It waited. The hardliners pushed further. They sent energy pulses into the network trying to bind it. Systems across their sector failed instantly. Ships collided. Power grids collapsed. Panic spread, but they did not stop. They believed control was close. Human leaders faced a choice. They could intervene openly and end the threat, or they could let the Guardians act. Intervention would save lives now, but risk future wars. Waiting would be worse in the short term, but final. They chose patience. The Guardian network responded in a way no one expected. It did not destroy fleets or worlds. It isolated them. Entire sectors went dark, cut off from travel and communication. The hardliners were trapped with the consequences of their actions, unable to expand or threaten anyone else. The Union Council watched in horror and relief. The punishment was precise. No innocent worlds were touched. Only those who had reached for control were contained. The boy stood on a balcony as stars shifted in the sky. He felt a sense of sadness, not fear. He understood in a way he could not explain that protection was not kindness without cost. It was responsibility. A message arrived from the Guardian network, translated through human systems with effort and care. It was not a warning. It was a statement. Humanity had been recognized as a stabilizing force. Their restraint had proven their worth more than any battle. The Union Council formally dissolved the factions that had caused the crisis. They invited human advisors to help rebuild trust and systems. For the first time, Union citizens saw humans not as weak, but as something far more dangerous and far more hopeful. The relic beast aboard the abandoned ship finally moved again. It powered down its ancient systems and released control of the vessel completely. Its task in that place was done. The ship was recovered and dismantled, its secrets shared carefully, never fully revealed. The boy slept peacefully that night. The dreams of waiting ended. In their place were quiet stars and steady light. The galaxy had been given a second chance, not through conquest, but through a lesson written in patience and protection. And humanity, still small on the maps, had become something far larger in the minds of those who watched the dark between the stars. The galaxy entered a long, uneasy calm, borders held, fleets stayed docked. The great powers spoke softly and chose their words with care. It was not peace born from trust, but from understanding. Everyone now knew that some lines, once crossed, could never be uncrossed. The boy became a young man. He never held a title and never wore a uniform. He studied quietly, learning science, history, and systems theory. Human leaders did not order him to do anything. They simply asked, and he chose when to answer. Whenever tensions rose between worlds, he was present, silent, and observant. Somehow, discussions around him slowed. Anger softened. Decisions became clearer. No one could explain why. Human scientists finally understood part of the truth. The Guardian bond had not made him powerful, it had made him visible. Through him, the ancient network could sense humanity's intent. Not commands, not plans, intent. As long as humans acted to protect rather than dominate, the Guardians remained still. But intent could change. Far beyond Union and human space, a civilization older than both watched the changes with interest. They had once ruled through force and survived by it. To them, the Guardian network was a failed experiment, a restraint placed on the strong. They decided it was time to end that mistake. Their fleets moved without warning, silent and vast. They did not attack human worlds first. They erased Guardian nodes at the edge of the network, one by one. The darkness spread slowly, carefully. Systems failed, not violently, but permanently. The Guardians did not respond. They were being blinded. The young man felt it immediately, not fear, but absence. The quiet presence he had always felt in the background was fading. For the first time in years, he felt alone. Human leaders met in emergency session. This enemy did not threaten children or civilians. They targeted the Guardians themselves. It was a war against protection, not territory. The old rules no longer applied. Union and human fleets gathered together for the first time in history. No speeches were made, no banners raised. They shared data and positions, moving as one. Survival demanded cooperation. The young man was brought aboard a human command vessel. He stood before commanders and spoke simply. The Guardians would not fight for dominance. They would only act if something worth protecting was truly at risk. The enemy knew this. That was why they avoided direct attacks. A decision was made. Humans would do what the Guardians could not. They would stand openly in the way. Human worlds opened evacuation corridors. Civilian ships moved into protected zones near Guardian cores that still functioned. Children, families, and refugees from many species were placed together, not hidden, but visible. It was a dangerous choice. The enemy fleets advanced and finally attacked. The moment the first evacuation ship was targeted, the Guardian network reacted, not in rage but in unity. Nodes flared back to life. The darkness receded. The relic beast, long dormant, awakened fully and sent a signal across the stars. This time the Guardians did not act alone. Human fleets engaged with precision and restraint. They defended, intercepted, and blocked. They did not chase fleeing enemies. They did not burn worlds. They held the line. The enemy did not understand. Their weapons failed in strange ways. Navigation collapsed. Fleets became isolated and confused. The Guardians were no longer correcting a single civilization. They were enforcing a principle. The young man watched the battle feeds in silence. He felt the weight of it all. Protection had finally become a shared burden. As the enemy retreated, cut off and contained, the Guardians slowed their response. They had not destroyed. They had preserved. The galaxy watched and learned. Humanity had not claimed power. They had accepted responsibility. And in doing so, they had proven something even the ancient network had not fully believed. That protection, when chosen freely, was stronger than any force imposed by fear. The war was not yet over, but its ending was finally clear. The final battles did not end with a great explosion or the fall of a capital world. They ended slowly, quietly, as protection replaced fear across the stars. The ancient enemy fleets, cut off from their supply lines and blinded by the restored Guardian network, began to collapse inward. Some surrendered. Others simply powered down and drifted, their purpose broken. They had expected conquest or destruction. They were not prepared for resistance that refused to become cruelty. Human and Union forces held their positions. They did not pursue retreating ships. They focused on the evacuation zones, on keeping civilians safe, on restoring damaged systems. Every action sent the same message into the galaxy. This war was not about winning. It was about preventing loss. The Guardian network watched closely. For the first time since its creation, it was not acting alone. It felt cooperation instead of command, trust instead of fear. The ancient system adjusted itself, not because it was forced to, but because it recognized balance. At the center of it all, the young man stood on the command deck, looking out at the stars. He no longer felt the Guardians as distant voices. He felt them as equals. Their presence was steady, calm, and respectful. They no longer guided him. They listened. The last major enemy stronghold was isolated within a sealed sector. Union and human leaders debated the final step. They could destroy it and end the threat forever. Or they could contain it and offer a choice. The young man spoke only once. He said destruction would teach fear. Containment would teach memory. The choice was made. A message was sent to the trapped civilization. They were told the truth. The Guardians existed to protect life, not power. Humanity had awakened them, not through strength, but through restraint. If the enemy chose to abandon domination, the Guardians would withdraw. If not, they would remain contained, forever unable to expand. There was no response for a long time. Then slowly the enemy powered down their weapons. Communication channels opened. The war ended not with surrender, but with